Hey guys, Doug Pneumatic Rifleman. So today we're going to be talking about the CAT Generation 7 tourniquet. We're going to go over some familiarization with the tourniquet. Then we'll go over storage, how it works, and then go into some demonstrations. So, alright, so the CAT Gen 7 tourniquet has a few parts on it. So you have your friction adapter here. This is the part that you will run your tourniquet tail through and then, get your band. So you have your tightening plate. You have your inner strap that runs through your windlass and then through the length of the tourniquet. You have your outer band, which is this piece right here. You have the dual Velcro here and then a nylon back. And then inside of this belt runs your inner band. This outer band will give you your initial tightening when you tighten the tourniquet down. And then the inner band, through action of spinning the windlass, will give you your full occlusion of the artery. So you then have your, probably should show you that too. You have your windlass securing clip. This works by giving you something to secure the windlass in. And then you have the windlass clip securing tab right here that also has a little place for you to write the time of application of the tourniquet. So the way I stow my tourniquets, this isn't necessarily the way you need to do it, it's just the way I do it. There's different people that do it different ways. I could care less how you carry and stow your tourniquet as long as you're training with it and it's actually effective. So I run my tab through, I make a little 4 or so inch bite of material. This allows me to have something a little meatier to grab onto with one hand if I'm doing a one-handed application. I then take this, run it out a little bit, fold it down, fold this up, and that gives me my the package that I actually carry. I then slip this into a pocket that's inside of one of my pockets on my pants. So, with the training tourniquet I'm going to be using for this demonstration, we have a earlier generation CAT tourniquet that has a dual friction adapter. I'll show you the differences here in a second. So you can see this is designed to have the strap go through here and then back through here. That is the way that it was intended to be used. That I found that was a much more challenging way to use the tourniquet. It made it much harder to get the initial tightening as tight as you possibly could. So I ended up just running through the deeper of the two tabs. This was back in like 2012, 2013 timeframe. And apparently the committee for TCCC agreed because the newer generation tourniquets have the single friction adapter. So for training purposes, if you're using earlier generation CAT tourniquets for training, I just run through the deeper of the two friction adapters and then call it good so that it more closely simulates the Generation 7 tourniquet. We're going to stow that up the same way, and then we're going to go into some demonstrations. Oh, first of all, how this works. This is basically just going to constrict down the muscle, tendons, fat, skin, whatever, on your extremity, be it a leg or an arm, to pinch off the artery against the bone. So similar to how you can kink a garden hose, it's going to compress all the stuff in your leg down to the bone until you can pinch off that artery up against the bone. So pretty simple stuff. That being said, let's get into some demonstrations. Alright guys, so now we're going to go over how I go about self-application of a tourniquet on a leg. So this is really simple. Again, we're using the earlier generation CAT tourniquet set up to simulate a Gen 7. I'll go ahead and show you on the Gen 7 first how the initial tightening goes, just to make it easier to, I guess, more relative. But, so basically, you're going to get this plate somewhere that you can actually get to the windlass and have effective access and spinning capacity on the windlass. You don't want to have it somewhere like right next to a pocket or something where you're going to get caught in your pocket when you're trying to spin it. That's gonna catch you and just cause you to take more time to put the tourniquet on unnecessarily. If you're doing a self-application, I like it right here in front where there's no pockets or anything really to get snug into, and you really only have to worry about outer garments or the crotch area of the pant. Make sure you don't get any of the material of the individual's more private areas caught in the tourniquet band. Obviously, this is more obvious with males, but it's also a consideration with females. Just make sure you're not on anything sensitive. You want to be on the meat of the leg with no body parts, flashlights, pens, or anything else in the band with the skin. You want a good connection to the actual leg itself. So you're gonna get that initial tightening. I prefer on self-applications to push between the legs because I tend to get a better initial tightening that way than going outside of the leg. The better your initial tightening is, the less turns of your windlass it's going to take, which means the less stress on your windlass and the less time your total application will be. So you want to get this initial tightening as tight as you possibly can, and then secure your tab. So on initial tightening, you want to get it as tight as you can, like I said, and then at least get your strap mostly secure. If you don't want to take the time to fully get it in there, I get that, but make sure when you're done with tightening your windlass, you do, so let's say it's tight. I'm not going to tighten this one because this is a carry tourniquet for me. Once you get that secured, make sure you go ahead and run this and get your full secured tourniquet. The reason that's important, let's say this is already this is twisted up, right? Your inner band is already constricted, and then you pop this. If you watch, I'm going to lose all my friction. See that? So if I do that and my inner band is already all matted up, you can't simply just re-go your tourniquet and then start spinning. You're not going to have as effective of a tourniquet that way. So it's critical that you secure this tab and make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So, and that's pretty much that. So again, we'll go over the initial application and tightening. If you have it set up for self, so roughly like this. So the tourniquet's set up roughly like this. You're gonna take the tourniquet, open up your band, step through the tourniquet with the band going towards the inside of the leg, pull your windlass up where you're gonna have access to it, get your initial tightening, and then start going in to twisting your windlass, all right? Once you get your windlass tight and you get your artery occluded, you know the artery is occluded when you stop the blood loss coming out of the leg. Go ahead and secure that windlass, secure your strap, and secure your windlass strap security device right here. So, and then I'll put your time down with a Sharpie or something, right at the time that you apply the tourniquet. So that's pretty much that. We'll go ahead and do it full on with the earlier generation cat. Like I said, you don't want to use your carry tourniquet for legit application because you don't want to overstress your windlass before you actually need the tourniquet. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and put the tourniquet on. And we will be doing a full-on occlusion on this one. The tourniquets hurt like a mother when you go to put them on, so be cognizant that it's going to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, you don't have an effective tourniquet. Unless you just have some kind of weird condition where you don't feel pain, it's gonna be unfortunate. So that being said, you're gonna get your initial tightening. And then you're going to take your windlass. And see that? I've only done a half a rotation. And that is already incredibly tight. And the level, it's hard to describe if you've never felt it, but the level of tight we're talking is incredible. It's not something you're going to easily, replicate with like a belt or a, if you have it at all as a possibility to have a proper tourniquet, you should have a proper tourniquet. They're like $30. But anyway, you can see that the tourniquet is high and tight. It's as high on the leg as I can practically get to without being like on the butt, right? You want the tourniquet to be on the leg itself to make sure you're not gonna have it slip off and be loose, right? So when you go to secure this, just put that over. If you have enough material to secure that too, go for it. But yeah, now, give me a second. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So if you're playing it on someone else, obviously you might have a little bit easier time getting leverage. I'm gonna take this off because this hurts. But now we'll use this to show you the operation of the inner band. So right here you can see it's all matted up and such, and you can see how the inner band actually came out of its sleeve. And then you can fix that by basically just pulling on the tourniquet from the friction adapter to the tail, and you can evenly distribute that inner band throughout the tourniquet again. But yes, that's self-application on a leg. We'll talk about a arm next. Alrighty guys, so now we're gonna talk about putting it on an arm. So this is when you really do need to have it set up for one-handed use, because obviously you cannot can't use two hands putting it high and tight on an arm. It won't work. So go ahead and get this all set up. So you're gonna have your tourniquet, and we're gonna go left arm. You have your tourniquet. You're going to get your band, put it over your arm. Let's go the other way, make it a little easier on us. So something to keep in mind with the arms. The arm is going to be a smaller artery, obviously, than the leg, and it will be a little easier to occlude the arm. And then you're going to get that occlusion, and then you need to push it over into the clip. Pull your Velcro over and secure it, and then secure everything in place. Now, if you can feel a distal pulse, it's hard to pick your arm up, but if you can feel a pulse down here, you don't have an effective tourniquet. Now, it's important to note that you stop being able to feel your distal pulse, I think at like 60% or 70% occlusion. So just because you don't have a distal pulse does not necessarily mean that you have a perfectly effective tourniquet. So real life, you stop winding the windlass when you fully control the bleeding. Give me a second. And you can see it. Oh, I didn't. So see that? So if I went to take it off, this is why you want to secure that band, because if this gets snug on something, like if you snag it on whatever, and then you pop this tourniquet, you're gonna have a problem. Oh man, that feels incredible. So now a note on placement of a tourniquet. So while we have the camera up here, we'll talk about that really fast. It's traditionally taught to put tourniquets high and tight. The reason this is taught is because the tourniquet is the only intervention, at least this is what I was taught. The tourniquet is the only intervention you're going to do on the X. So combat casualty care is broken down into 3 phases. You have care under fire, tactical field care, and then casualty evacuation. Under care under fire, that is the care that you render to the patient literally under fire, whether you're behind cover or not. Tourniquets are the only intervention you're going to do in that phase of TCCC. So the reason they teach high and tight tourniquet placement is because in that moment you see blood coming out the bottom of the arm, or you see massive bleeding. You're not going to have time to sit there and assess where that blood is coming from. So instead of sitting there and being like, oh, it's right here, I need to go 3 inches above, oh, there's a joint there, I need to go above the joint. Instead of doing that, you're just gonna put the tourniquet on high and tight. That gives you the most probability of catching and controlling that bleeding. And then you'll bring them back. Tactical field care, you can start reassessing everything. Tactical field care is once you get the patient out of the line of fire, you have your fire superiority and security set in, and you can start doing your proper medical assessment and or casualty assessment and your interventions that you're going to do to try to save that patient's life. So That's where the high and tight thing comes from. If you are not under fire and your security situation is lesser than it would be under fire, then there's no reason not to do a proper tourniquet application. So let's say you have a cut off wrist right here, well then you can come 3 inches high and do your tourniquet right there. And the reality is, and I learned this the other day to be truthful, I was taught that you can't put a tourniquet below this joint because there's 2 bones, the artery runs between them. That is false. You absolutely can do a tourniquet on the bone and get occlusion. It works incredible. I'll roll in a video right here of a soft T wide being used to do that, and then also the windlass being secured hilariously, because the way that the soft T wide works. Let me see if I can grab a soft T wide. So the soft T wide has a triangle right here that secures your windlass. Windlass goes in like this and clips. Well, when this goes around the arm, it's much harder to get this down one-handed to the triangle securement ring. So what I did was, well, you'll see in the video. On this episode of figuring out how to do a one-handed soft T wide without being able to use the triangle, and it was in fact able to be done one-handed. Pretty neat. It worked, so yay for that. But anyway, so yeah, so if you have the time and you're not under fire to place that tourniquet 3 inches above approximately 1 hand width, so if you have an injury, say your injury's there, 1 hand width approximately. So if your injury is here, 1 hand width above, tourniquet here, and send that thing. That's fine if you're not under fire and you can take time to properly assess the situation. If you're uncomfortable with that, high and tight, and just send it that way. It really doesn't matter if there's no reason to not assess and put the tourniquet where it needs to be. The lower the tourniquet is, the less of your limb is going to be affected by the tourniquet, obviously, and everything below the tourniquet is going to be basically unusable. So let's say you have a patient with a amputated foot and you put the tourniquet high and tight on the thigh. You've just basically taken use of that entire leg away, rather than just putting it below the knee, and now the person can actually bend their knee, get into vehicles. If you have the time, I personally prefer to just put the tourniquet where it needs to go, my opinion. But yeah, guys, I hope this is helpful for you guys. It's pretty basic stuff. Tourniquets are really simple to use. There's no reason to be intimidated by them. All the old myths about, amputations and stuff, save the life or get the limb, all that's been debunked. We have, unfortunately, a lot of time as a country seeing these things be effective, and people keeping limbs even though they were using tourniquets. Good that they're keeping limbs, unfortunately that they needed the tourniquets. So with that being said, guys, it's been Doug with Nomadic Rifleman, because everywhere deserves good and capable riflemen ready to be an aid to their fellow man or selves for more than just rifle stuff. So y'all have a great day.